NFL fans, what is going on? Welcome back to the J All Day Sports Show. In today's episode, I want to go over all the Week 1 NFL games for or against the spread. Over the last week, there's been a ton of changes with these spreads. So we got to see if there are any places we can take advantage of these changes in the spread. We are less than 2 weeks away before opening day of the NFL season. Ravens versus the Chiefs on Thursday night. Less than 2 weeks away. Let's get into it. All right, NFL fans, the key to understanding spreads is Vegas sets the lines, right? But any movement for or against the spread is because where are people putting their money? Perfect example, Baltimore Ravens, Kansas City Chiefs. The Ravens were +3. Now they're +2.5. So some money's coming in on Baltimore. So why is that? I'll tell you why. Because Marquise Hollywood Brown is doubtful for Week 1. He's probably not going to play. And then there's two big key injuries to the offensive line. Juwan Taylor and Wanya Morris are both questionable for Week 1, and that's leaving rookie left tackle Kingsley Suamataia going to be the starter. We got a rookie starting at left tackle against this really good pass rush of the Baltimore Ravens. So there's some money coming in on Baltimore. So they're now +2.5. They were +3. Chiefs are down from -3 to -2.5. So who do I think covers this spread? I still think the Chiefs can cover this spread, guys. It's actually better because it doesn't matter to me if the rookie starting at left tackle, Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes are going to be able to figure it out. They're going to be able to scheme up to win this game still. I like the Chiefs. I think they cover the -2.5 points. And it's great because the -3 that they had would have been a push. But now if they win by a field goal, they can, you kind of still win some money here, guys. So I like the Kansas City Chiefs to cover the -2.5. This Green Bay Packers Philadelphia Eagles spread went from, it was -1 to -1.5. Now it's up to +2.5 for the Green Bay Packers. And that's probably because yesterday, Howie Roseman, the GM of the Philadelphia Eagles, pulled more magic, more rabbits out of his hat, and that rabbit is Jahan Dotson, the former first-round pick, number 16 overall from Penn State, Jahan Dotson, who's going to be the number 3 wide receiver in that Philadelphia Eagles offense to go with Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown, a very formidable 3 wide receiver set. He's very good at running routes. He's got some issues with the drops, but he's had very poor quarterback play over the last few years. I like the Packers in +2.5, guys. I really do. I don't know if the Eagles can cover this -2.5 spread. That spread keeps going up. Even if it gets to -3, -3.5, that's even more of a reason to put money on the Green Bay Packers. I'm just worried about this Eagles secondary. I think Vic Fangio, the guy who's really good at scheming up and game planning for opposing offenses, can get this defense right. But is it going to happen right away in Week 1? I have my doubts. And the Green Bay Packers, Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, they have a very formidable offense. They brought over Josh Jacobs from the Raiders. I like the Packers to cover the 2.5 points. All right, next up is the New England Patriots traveling to Cincinnati to take on Joe Burrow and the Bengals. Him and Jamar Chase are going to be back at it. They're giving the Patriots 9 points. This line has been pretty consistent. Who's going to start? Jacoby Brissett or Drake May? We don't know yet. One concern I have, just a little baby concern, if you look at the Cincinnati Bengals, they're dealing with some injuries on the defensive line. We have some guys on IR, a lot of questionable guys. Myles Murphy just got hurt. Sam Hubbard's questionable. They got some injuries on the D-line. Am I super concerned about that? Not super concerned, but 9 points is a lot, especially in Week 1. The Bengals definitely have a better roster. I think the Patriots have the better defense, though, guys. But quarterback play is everything in the NFL. I do like the Patriots to cover the 9 points. It's just asking a lot for Joe Burrow, who's still dealing with that hand injury, to come back and be super effective in Week 1. It might take him some time to get used to throwing with that tendon damage he had in that wrist. So I like the Patriots to cover the 9 points. And then here is a huge spread that has changed. Arizona Cardinals at one point within the last month were up to +7. They're now +5.5. So there's some money coming in on the Arizona Cardinals. Do we take advantage of that? Or is it better for the Bills to cover this minus 5.5 points? I like the Arizona Cardinals to cover the 7 points. But as we get closer and closer to game time, I don't know if they can cover 5.5, man. I thought the 7 points was a great bet, but as it gets lower and lower and lower, it's more of an advantage for the Buffalo Bills, who, have a good coaching staff, they have a good core, and they have Josh Allen. They have the better quarterback, but Arizona has Trey McBride. They added Marvin Harrison Jr. in the draft. Can the Buffalo Bills and Russell Douglas kind of cover Marvin Harrison Jr.? We'll have to see. I'm taking the Bills and the minus 5.5 points. I don't know if the Cardinals can cover the 5.5. I'm taking the Bills. All right, Houston Texans at the Colts. I'm taking the Houston Texans and minus 1.5 all day long. I'm actually putting a $100 money line bet on the Houston Texans at minus 122. Minus 1.5 points at minus 110. I just like the money line bet a little bit better, but I look for the Houston Texans to cover the minus 1.5. It's pretty easy money for me. I like the way they coached last year. Anthony Richardson is kind of hit or miss, in my opinion. He doesn't have a lot of experience, man. I look for DeMeco Ryans to scheme it up and make it difficult for Anthony Richardson and Michael Pittman. But Adonai Mitchell, the other wide receiver, has looked really good in the preseason. But, man, C.J. Stroud is like automatic. He's like a robot back there. He's great on third down. And Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Joe Mixon, Stephon Diggs. I'm taking the Houston Texans all day long. Jacksonville Jaguars, Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins' offense is great. They're probably going to score 24, 27 points in this game. Can the Jacksonville Jaguars and Evan Ingram and Gabe Davis and Travis Etienne keep up with this high-powered Miami Dolphins offense? Luckily for them, a lot of the Miami's defense is still banged up from those injuries from last year, right? Chubb's still going to be out. So if there was ever a time for the Jacksonville Jaguars to cover this plus 3.5 points, it's now. So I'm taking the Jaguars and the 3.5 points, guys. I'm looking for this line to get over 4.5 by kickoff. And if it does, I'm going to take advantage of it. But right now, I think the Jaguars can cover the plus 3.5. I don't know if they win the game, but I think it's a little closer than people think. I like the Jaguars plus 3.5 points. Now, on to the Minnesota Vikings traveling to the New York Giants, right? This is pretty much a pick'em game, -1, +1 on each side. My only concern right now is Jordan Addison going to play in this game? With the whole DUI situation, we'll have to see how that kind of plays out. He's been dealing with some injuries too. I think he's got a high ankle sprain, so that's a concern too. So if Addison doesn't play, I'm leaning more towards the New York Giants in this game. But as of right now, I still like the Vikings to cover the -1. If they win the game, it's a push by 1. The Giants, Malik Neighbors looks like the real deal, man. He looks like he's going to be a true number 1 wide receiver. He just catches everything. He's got a huge catch radius. He's able to get separation and get open. We'll have to see what Daniel Jones shows up in this game. A concern I have for the Minnesota Vikings is Sam Darnold playing outside on the road in week 1. This is not a game I'm jumping at to bet, right? I'm staying away from this game. I have no bets on this game for week 1 at all. If the Giants won this game, I would not be surprised. Right now, I'm going to lean with the team. I think he's got the better defense in the Vikings. And Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones are a wash. And the Vikings have the better wide receivers. They're just a little bit better of a roster. So I'm taking the Minnesota Vikings and -1. But if no Addison, I might change my mind. Then we have the Tennessee Titans at the Chicago Bears. A rookie quarterback covering 4.5 points is a huge ask for Caleb Williams. We've seen him in that second preseason, the first 3 or 4 drives, kind of struggle to move the ball. He wasn't throwing great in structure. Could that be the same thing that happens against this Tennessee Titans defense in week 1? Maybe. But also, you got to remember, the Tennessee Titans far and away had the worst offensive line in football last year. They added some additions in the draft. They brought over Bill Callahan from the Browns, who is the dad of the new head coach, Brian Callahan. DeAndre Hopkins is also really, really good. They added some additions to that wide receiver room like Calvin Ridley. But are they going to be ready week one? I don't know. I think I'm going to go with the Bears to cover -4.5. Another game I don't necessarily love betting on. I think the spread's right, -4.5. It could kind of go either way. That's why -108 at the -4.5 is kind of where that line is at. So I'm going to take the Bears in the -4.5, but I'm not happy about it. I don't love it at all whatsoever. And then we have the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Falcons. So this line was at +2.5. It's at +3 now. The Atlanta Falcons, there's some juice coming in on the Falcons because Russell Wilson and Justin Fields have been Bush League all preseason long. Their offense is just going to suck again. Sorry, Steelers fans. I'm not sorry because it's just the truth. The Steelers' offense is going to blow all year long unless they can kind of bring in a guy like Brandon Ayuk. But they got to protect him. There's going to be some rookies starting on that O-line. And the play is just Justin Fields and Russell Wilson just are not very good. I think they both kind of suck, right? And the Atlanta Falcons have a pretty decent defense. They added some additions late in free agency, late in this offseason, like Simmons and Judon coming over from New England, right? They have a pretty solid offensive line, one of the better offensive lines in my opinion. We'll have to see how Kirk Cousins looks in week one coming off that Achilles injury, but he's got the weapons in Drake London and Kyle Pitts and Bijan Robinson. He has everything he has to succeed. I'm going with the Falcons to cover the 3 points all day long. Panthers, Saints. So this was at +5. It's at +4. So there's some juice coming in on the Carolina Panthers, right? I just don't believe in this Saints team. Saints fans have been crucifying me because I don't think they can win 9 or 10 games. I think they were 9-8 last year. I just don't see it happening. They're a few injuries away from having no weapons on offense. And if Derek Carr goes down, I don't know. I just don't like their running back room. Not a lot of depth at the wide receiver room. A mediocre offensive line. There's not one guy over a 60 PFF grade besides the center. And Derek Carr likes to finger point. I just don't like his leadership ability. Their schedule's like in the middle of the road. They don't have a hard schedule, but it's not necessarily an easy one either. But I don't know. Can the Carolina Panthers cover the 4 points, guys? I'm not sure, man. I'm going to go with the Saints at -4. They're the home team. The Carolina Panthers have a lot to prove this year. They added some additions like Hunt on the offensive line. Xavier Legette could ball out, but then Bryce Young's not playing at all in the preseason. I think that is a huge mistake. I like the Saints to cover the 4 points. Broncos at the Seahawks. The line went from +4.5 to +5, so there's some juice coming on the Seattle Seahawks. I've been on them for my survivor pool. I was on them at -4.5 points. If you got that bet in, congratulations. That's at -5 now. I think Bo Nix, a rookie, traveling to Seattle to play the 12th man. That home crowd, the 12th man, is huge in Seattle. Seattle's got a great offense. They can block. Their offensive line is still cheeks, but they got great weapons there. I think they can cover the 5 points, but if it goes anywhere above 5, I'm over it. I'm going to go. If the Denver Broncos are like +5.5, +6, I would take them. But I think -5 is the highest I would go on this, spread. I'm going with the Seahawks to cover the 5 points, but nothing over that, guys. Raiders at the Chargers. I just don't understand how this line is at +3.5. I'm going with the Raiders to cover these 3.5 points all day long. All day long, man. They could still lose by a field goal and you still cash. The Raiders, I think, have a better roster. I think they have a better defense. I think they have better weapons on offense. I don't understand this line. I love the +3.5. And if you get them on a 6-point teaser to tease the Raiders up to 9.5, there's no chance on planet Earth that the Chargers will beat the Raiders by more than 9.5 points. No chance. I like the Raiders to cover +3.5. They added Christian Wilkins. They added Brock Bowers, who's dealing with some injuries, which is unfortunate. We'll have to keep an eye on whether or not he's going to play in week 1 and if he's healthy. But if they got Brock Bowers, Gardner Minshew was a Pro Bowler last year, guys. So he's not a great quarterback. but he's a formidable one. I think he can make most of the throws. As long as he doesn't turn the ball over 2 or 3 times, I think they cover this plus 3.5 points easily. I'm taking the Raiders and the points. Next up, we have the Dallas Cowboys on the road against the Cleveland Browns. About a month ago, this line was +1 for the Cowboys. Now it's plus 2.5, so the juice is coming in on the Cleveland Browns. I get why, because the Dallas Cowboys, there's a lot of inner turmoil with this organization, not paying CeeDee Lamb. There's some injuries on the offensive line. There are injuries on the defensive line. A lot of rookies could be starting on the offensive line for the Cowboys going against Myles Garrett and company. I don't like that. I'm going with the Cleveland Browns to cover the -2.5 points. Next up, we got the Commanders on the road against the Buccaneers. I don't know how this spread went from plus 3.5 to +3. What? Like, the juice is coming in on the Commanders? You guys are special. Very, very special. If you're going to bet the Commanders, who just lost Jahad Johnson, a very formidable wide receiver, to the Philadelphia Eagles. They're on the road in the humidity with a rookie quarterback against Todd Bowles, scheming up against Jaden Daniels. I'm taking the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to cover the -3 all day long. Rams versus the Lions. The Rams are dealing with some injuries, guys. Stafford's dealing with some hamstring stuff. Puka Nacua is a little banged up. I like the Lions in this game, but I don't think they cover the points. I'm taking the Rams and the 3.5 points. I think Stafford and Nacua both play. It's going to be a close game in my opinion. Even though the Lions have improved, they added Zeitler on that offensive line. I think he's playing right guard for them over from the Ravens. They added Terry and Arnold, who's going to play outside. I like the additions they made. I think the Lions win this game, but I think the Rams probably cover the +3.5. Jets, 49ers. This spread was at 5, now it's at 4. There's some juice coming in on the Jets because of this Brandon Ayuk situation, I think, and some injuries on the offensive line. Man, where do we go here, guys? Where do we go? Let's take a look at the 49ers and check out some of these injuries and see what's kind of going on with this team a little bit. Yeah, McCaffrey's questionable. Juwan Jennings is questionable. Aaron Banks is questionable. Spencer Burford is questionable. John Feliciano is out. Definitely some depth issues on the offensive line and some injuries that we're concerned about. I think the Jets and +4, I like the Jets and +4. I really do. I think this is going to be a close game. It's going to be a field goal game. Get it while you can, guys. I'm going with the Jets and +4. They're my spread picks for you guys. I hope you like this kind of content. If you do, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Yo, guys, we added 600 new subscribers this month alone. I appreciate you guys so much. I'm going to continue to put the work in so I can help make you guys some cash on your bets. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Peace.